My Lord, Sergeant, would you look at this?
I've seen it, ma'am.
Oh, my Lord, Sergeant, would you look at this?
I've seen it, ma'am.
Anti-Afro-Spengalis. I am coming on here to address two issues. Number one, I wanted to talk about Lisa Affleck's channel. And the second thing I wanted to talk about are the multiple messages that I'm getting about people asking me or expecting me to, quote, take on other frauds. Those are the two things I'm going to address and clarify some things. First, very, very important, I wanted to take this time again to go into more detail about Lisa Affleck's channel. I had mentioned her channel 2 times already, and I wanted to give more detail about why I think her channel is so fascinating, because she uses both the humor and the serious as a heart attack approach. But she points out something about Umar Johnson that I think is dead on, just spot on the match, that I wanted to bring up, that is just outrageous about him, that needs to be pointed out, about how his exploitation issues, and how when he flies all over the place, people, like when he's going to this China and going all over the world, and how he is so inappropriate, bringing up world leaders' names like Mao Zedong and Fidel Castro, and how little information he has about these leaders. And it's so disrespectful to just throw these names out. Okay, yeah, yeah, you can open up your mouth, move your mouth around and say whatever you want. But some things you just don't say about people. He doesn't know this. There's so many things that he doesn't know about. When I say don't know about, he wants to, like, he'll pick a country. Pick any country, and he'll pick like the most famous leader and thinks he knows something about it and says something. Like, for example, when he was talking about South Africa, he just decided he was just going to say, because there were Chinese people there, that they're taking over the country and it's an official language. Just anything pulling out of any smelly orifice on his body just to get attention. See, he does things and says the most outrageous things to get attention. Fidel Castro was Italian. And mind you, he didn't give one iota of reference point or anything. Stupid fool. Fidel Castro was born in Santiago, Cuba, where they have like the most Afro-Cuban population. So where are you coming up with Italian? Where is your evidence that Fidel Castro is Italian? It just says anything. And then about Fidel Castro didn't care about the Afro-Cubans. I don't even want to get into it, but just these crazy cockamamie comments shows he doesn't know a damn thing about Cuba. And then, of course, lying about Cuba, saying that his great-grandfather for the Bailey family side is from Cuba. And of course, the Baileys say there's nobody from their family from Cuba. So he picks the most famous people to associate. This is a long-standing problem, people. So this is something Lisa Affleck was pointing out. So to be very careful, because if you're following, I'm going to tell you why she brought this up, which really got me thinking about some things that I had experienced with people I had worked with in the past. And I think it's safe for me to tell you about what had happened. But her bringing this stuff up and telling people to be very careful if you're going to be dealing with Umar Johnson, running around with him, and he's up here throwing names out. It's very dangerous. This is serious, people. This is dangerous. You don't just go throwing out Mao Zedong's name. You just don't do stuff like that. I mean, it's just, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't, just throwing stuff around. You're in a foreign country. It's not the United States. And if your behind gets locked up somewhere, who's going to come get you? We'll leave you behind over there. That's what's going to happen. So he just jumps up and just says anything, anything. And you have to be very careful because he can end up getting people hurt. I'm just glad. Let me tell you, I'll tell you one thing. I'm talking about for the vulnerable people, the victims, although they are what they do. Now, this is not saying I, quote, feel sorry for them because they're adults, but he is victimizing people. I have to make this statement based on what Lisa Afak was saying. She really got my mind going. I'm at least thankful because this could mean loss of life. And I'm not even playing, people. If he was traveling to Latin American countries, trying this, messing around with making statements about, if he goes over, I don't even want to say this, people. If he went to Central America and South America and start throwing around names of leaders, I'm not even gonna mention names. That's how serious it could get. His behind will be chopped up somewhere. You don't go throwing around names and stuff. You don't know what you're talking about. And the religions too. I mean, the big mouth. See, the United States is different than, I don't know how many of you people have traveled. I know, of course, people have traveled, but Umar Johnson travels. He travels to controlled places. And I can tell by the way he talks. And again, this is what Lisa Affleck was talking about. He really does not know about these countries. Okay, because if you did, you would know how to behave. And you don't just go bringing up stuff. Let me tell you something that happened. I was working with the family from Guatemala. I don't know if you people know, I didn't hate bringing this topic up, what white witches are. It's kind of like it's kind of a scary thing. This is not my culture, but I respect other people's cultures. I don't go messing around in people's stuff, okay? When people tell me things are serious, I believe it, okay? I don't take it on. I don't argue with people about their culture. But there was a teenager who was upset with somebody, and I was talking to her, and she showed me the pictures and told me she wanted to do a ritual on them. I had to go to her mother and let her mother know that she was doing that because you can't mess around with stuff like this, people. So the mother, oh my God, I guess they had to do whatever they needed to do in their culture. You just can't do stuff like that. So go over to South America, Central America, and start talking about Escuadrón de la Muerte, which are the death squads, and see how long you survive. Or Mexico talking about the cartels and thinking you're being cute. That's what Umar Johnson would do. So thankfully for the people who aren't following him around, I'm talking about the people, the victims, because there's some people end up dead dealing with Umar Johnson with his big mouth. Now, there are several people who know this, that Spanish is my second language. You don't mess around with certain stuff. So thankfully for the victims that are still being victimized by Umar Johnson, that he hasn't taken his behind over to Central and South America, messing around, because his behind would have come back in a body bag. I'm telling you the truth, people. And the victims would be coming back in a body bag because they don't mess around with stuff like this. So Lisa Effect got me thinking that this is just a dangerous person going around just bringing up people's names and bringing up world leaders' names, and you don't know who you're talking to. And then here's another thing. There could be some people who are very angry and have these different sects and cults that may want to kill somebody that likes this person, or you're talking about this person. These places have cults. Japan has cults. They want to poison you. They'll put stuff in your mouth. This dude is a fool. And anybody hanging around him, you got a serious problem. If you believe anything, this dude's going to get you killed. Especially going to foreign countries talking mess. So I encourage you to go to Lisa Affleck's channel because she talks about history. about how Umar Johnson is messing around with stuff he's got no idea what he's talking about. Talking about China as an official language in South Africa. What are you talking about? And by the way, for those of you who don't know, there is a huge growing number of people in South Africa that want nothing to do with Umar Johnson. They want him barred. Okay, and there was also, someone had mentioned there was a message on YouTube about banning Umar Johnson in Great Britain or England. That is something that people were talking about, but as far as I know, that hasn't happened. Okay, now he went over to, listen to this, with his dummy self, went over to, I think it was Manchester, and was talking about, excuse my language, I'm glad they burned that shit down in Ferguson. Up there talking about anti-U.S. government stuff in a foreign country, which can be considered subversion. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's not in the thinking business, people. So, at your own risk, you go ahead and follow this dude overseas or hook up with him overseas. Your family will be, trust me, if you love your family, know if you end up dead, it's going to cost them about $10,000 to get your body back to the United States. And the government doesn't pay. Your family pays. This dude is dangerous. He's dangerous in the United States, and he's dangerous overseas, running his mouth about Mao Zedong and everybody else. Again, maybe he does half smart, half of a brain, but he stays out of Central and South America. And here's the thing, people. He thinks he talks about how much he loves people from African descent. There are tons of people from African descent, all in Central and South America, but he stays away from there, which tells you something. He's a chicken, S-H-I-T. Okay, go over there talking about cartels and death squads and see what happens, and bring up their leaders over there. Talk about their leaders over there and see what happens. You won't make it back alive. I can guarantee you that much. So people, check out Lisa's channel. She really talks about draws in history. And also she talks about Marcus Garvey. How it's hilarious how she draws these comparisons about what an insult it is that Umar Johnson, his name is even mentioned in the same book. When I say book, as far as distance, as Marcus Garvey, and how he's trying to adopt this Marcus Garvey thing, and she just thinks it's a joke, which it is. Absolutely is a joke. I mean, because the parallels, although he's not like Garvey is not somebody I quote unquote follow, but as far as his level of intelligence and the mind, you can't even, they're not on the same hemisphere. So it's an insult how Lisa's talking about the way she says it, how Umar Johnson tries to equate himself or even put himself on this Garvey level. Garveyite. It is so ridiculous, people. And she points it out. It's all part of the scam. Trying to make himself seem so intelligent. He's not intelligent. Not in the least, people. He's just buzzwording and shock waving it all the way through to get Black folks riled up to get your money. That's all he's doing. That's it. Check out her channel. Very informative. How she integrates history into modern day and shows you what a fool Umar Johnson is. And I issue this warning to you. You go overseas with Umar Johnson, you meet him overseas, you take your life into your hands. Just keep that in mind with his old big mouth, running his mouth, not knowing what he's talking about. And he's lucky one of those Japanese cults hasn't gotten a hold of his behind and kidnapped him. They don't play because the Japanese government has a difficult time controlling them. So Umar Johnson has probably kept his ass in a certain, excuse my language, but I said it, kept his behind in a certain place where those cults can't get to him. Because if they get a hold of him, he's history. with its old stupid behind over there talking and dropping names, doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. That goes for China and Japan. They have difficulty controlling those cults over there. And Umar Johnson is a cult. Okay? But cults get competitive. Okay? And they don't like little crazy, nutty people coming over there trying to compete with them. And that's the category Umar Johnson is in. So let me get over to this issue about the messages that I received. This is kind of hilarious. People keep asking me to I don't know what they want me to start a campaign about these quote unquote other frauds. And the thing that's kicking this off is the latest woo ba ba hoop la blah with Boyce Watkins and Yvette. Now, I really don't like going into other people on this channel because I've talked about this, but I'm specifically addressing this so I can clarify. Yes, I have an opinion about the situation, but I'm not going to go into it here. How I handle that, I blog on those websites using a different screen name. I wouldn't be using this screen name because I want this screen name to stay primarily with this issue, which is exposing Umar Johnson as the fraud, okay, that he is. So I absolutely am involved in giving my opinion about that situation, but it's not under this screen name. So yeah, I absolutely. So it's not something that we're going to be covering here because it's not relevant to this channel. Although in passing, people may mention something, but it's not something I want to be covered here. Okay? And just to clarify, no, my life does not entail going after people. I would only, quote, go after people if somebody, quote, came after me, threatening me, harassing me, okay, perping in my profession, and creating a serious danger for our people. That's it, people. That's it. Or somebody I love, trying to hurt someone I love. I don't go around going after people because I don't agree with them, okay? That's not what I do. So again, thank you. I guess, I don't know if that's considered a compliment or not. Whatever side that you're on, if I didn't agree with Boyce or Yvette, I would never in a million years, quote, go after either of them. They're not perpetrating in my profession. They're not harassing me. They're not threatening to kill me. So fine, they could say what their position is their position. So I just want to make that clear. That's not what I do in life. I don't bother people unless they bother me. I don't start fights. I've never had a, quote, fight in my life, to be honest with you. We were taught to avoid that, okay, for our futures, okay? We don't get into that kind of thing. Avoid it, because there's nothing a fight is going to do for a black person but get you a damn criminal record and ruin your life, or try to ruin your life, okay? So no, I don't get into that kind of thing. So, so people, no, I'm not going after frauds, okay? If you think somebody is a fraud and they're breaking the law, I would recommend you call the cops. If you think they're breaking the law, if they're just saying, I'm buku the fool and I have this YouTube channel and I just need money, there's no law against that. There is no law against somebody saying, give me money, I want to keep this channel running. There is no law against that. If a person represents to be something that they're not, a licensed, a certified position, that is illegal. Now, I would only go after that if it's related to what I'm doing, if it's impacting my field, my people, okay? That's when I would act. And I actually have never done this before. This is the first time I've ever done something like this because the serious damage that Umar Johnson is doing. I could not just sit around and not do anything about it. So as far as somebody having a different opinion than me, they have a different opinion. what can I say? I have very strong opinions about different things, and I go and I blog. I do it there. Okay. But not on this channel. This channel is specific for Umar Johnson is a fraud. So I wanted to come on here to clarify that. I hope that clears things up and to redirect you back to Lisa Affect's channel and to just re-emphasize to the people, you want to play the following the Pied Piper, you're taking your life in your hands when it comes to Umar Johnson. He's going to lead you right off the cliff. But still, I must say to you, buyer beware.